Hello, good morning. Welcome to episode 15 of Mindful Meditations on Art Jewelry. My name is Allison Barnett, and I've been coming to you live for the last 15 weeks from Santa Fe, New Mexico. I started in my living room during isolation, and then we progressed to our gallery, Patina Gallery in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And today is a wonderful way to round out this whole season of Mindful Meditations. This round out will be with wonderful artist Claire Kahn, and Claire has been with the gallery. This is her 10th season with the gallery, and it feels like the perfect way. And if it looks a little bit different, I'm coming to you live today from Claire's home in her studio. And I welcome you all to share in this experience. This video might go a little bit longer than the ones in previously, because this is the first time that I'm going live with an artist. So Claire and I will try to keep our distance from one another and to do this without our masks on, but we welcome you all. So I'm going to turn the camera as we enter Claire's beautiful home, and there's Claire. She's waiting for us all.
Hello, you guys.
So we're going to enter into Claire's, what we refer to as Claire's Peaceable Kingdom, which is a wonderful, I'm going to lock the door behind me, Claire's Peaceable Kingdom. It's a wonderful home where she lives and works. This is her kitchen is behind her, and as we come into the space, we are going to be gathered with so much beauty in how she lives, and how her way that she lives really is part of her entire journey as a maker, as an artist. And so we are entering her living room, and we'll look outside at the very end, but we're entering her living space, which is just beautiful. Claire, tell us a little bit about, there you are. You moved here from the Bay Area in 2016, and tell us about moving here in your home and the inspiration for the move.
Well, I was thinking of moving from the Bay Area. My father had passed. We sold the family home. I thought it was maybe time for a change, and New Mexico is on the list. Patina Gallery is here. It was important to me to be near the gallery, and I saw this, what looked like extraordinary house online. My friend Joanne Matius and I came and had a look at it, and I fell in love with the area. It was so beautiful, and those are the kinds of things that inspire the work. So it's a great house. It's a modern house, but it uses all the beautiful local materials, so it feels right in place here. And it was just a great opportunity, and it's a beautiful and peaceful place with a great studio.
Well, on that note, let's go into the studio. I will follow you in, Claire.
Okay.
Yes. So as you can see, it's a very open format in Claire's home, and her beautiful studio is filled with natural light from skylights up above and light coming in from both windows. And I love this window in Claire's studio because she has beautiful glass that she's collected over the years. It might be Murano Italian glass and other glass collected over her lifetime and from her father. And then over here is a beautiful, fabulous painting. Claire, your dad made this painting.
Yes, my father's a painter, and he, over the years, has painted in different ways. This is an early piece, and it's one of two. There's a sun kite and a moon kite, and he used pen and ink, acrylic, multiple layers, very fine, delicate lines in the work.
So your relationship with your dad, and he was a teacher at Stanford.
Yes, he was a professor at Stanford. He was there for 63 years, the longest appointed professor in the history of the university.
That's so fabulous, and I know that the work that he did has really been an inspiration to you. And you really, I'm looking at this space, and I see how the outside comes into your working space. This is the area in which you are crocheting, yes, where these pieces all come to life. This is, a simple area. She has a wall, which in some regards, some might say is nice because it maybe is a distraction from what's happening outside. You can see the beauty of the outside world there, her peaceable kingdom. But there's a low wall, which maybe serves to quiet her mind a little bit as she's doing this crochet work. And I want to talk about what's there. But before we do, I want to, Claire, if you could show us what we've laid out over here, and then we can talk about the process.
Yes, certainly.
Okay, so here we've laid out many of Claire's divine pieces. And as many of you have seen from our emails and on social media and online, Claire, in her 10th year at the gallery, has been focusing on a whole new series. She introduces little mini-series throughout the year as a different way of working. And so most recently, she introduced what we are calling Sand to Sea. And I'll let you talk about that, and then this work, which is called For Your Pleasure. But we've laid out all the more recent works that remain. So I'm going to let Claire really tell you about. We'll start with Sand to Sea, and she will tell you about this beautiful collection.
So this started out as an idea around the color blue. I was going to call the series Blue, but I wanted to celebrate summer, and that's for me about water and the coast and the beach and that amazing transition from the color of the sand to the very shallow water to slightly deeper water and ultimately to that deep ultramarine. So that's what these pieces do. This, which is just a cord with a kind of spiral pattern, transitions from very pale, which is at the beach part, to the shallow water, to the deeper water, and finally to that really deep royal blue, ultramarine, deep sea kind of thing. When, I used to go to Lake Tahoe in the summertime, and Lake Tahoe does this a lot. In all of the small little coves and beaches there's this spectacular transition from white to deep blue through aqua and turquoise. So that's what that piece is. It's also fun to do these transitions because as you wear the piece, if you double it, you can have a passage where the colors are opposite, or you can wear them where they're quite similar. These are flexible pieces, and the wearer can, show their favorite part of the piece. And I did this one, these kind of go together.
Okay.
But this piece, there's a kind of Japanese inspiration here, like the patterns you'd see in a Japanese textile, in a kimono or a beautiful obi sash. But in here, what's happening is we have the same kind of light to dark progression.
Oh, gosh.
But there's a little gash of blue, light to dark blue, as the necklace progresses.
I'm just going to gather it and just hold it a little bit. There we go.
So in the lightest part, the dark blue pops out, and in the darkest part, the light white part pops out.
So many of these pieces, really every piece, Claire, is about pattern and about exploring pattern. And I'm always amazed that you're able to realize these patterns and you're sort of choreographing these little mosaic of beads into this very small space. And I see that as an enormous challenge. And I know that you've done choreography with music, with these really grandiose fountains, like at the Bellagio and the Burj Khalifa. And I'm always thinking tell us about music and about pattern and exploration and how you distill that down into these the challenge of distilling that down to these small chords.
I think in everything I've ever done in pattern making, it's all been about this idea, this mosaic idea, where you take individual units and you collect them, and as a collection they create a larger single idea or design. In the water, I'm using thousands of individual jets, individually controlled. So there, the coming together is a sort of kinetic, over time experience that often goes with music. But it's still based on these individual units that come together. Now, when you see other crochet, some people use a lot of beads because they want to completely obliterate the individual beads. The more you use, the more sort of pixelated it is, and you can create very realistic images of things with the more dots you have. It's just like on a computer screen or in a camera. But I like to see the individual units. I think that's part of the magic. Especially with jewelry. What does it look like when you're really close to it? And then what does it look like when you're farther away from it? Both are intriguing to me.
So we were talking before we went live about music and some of your favorite composers. And a lot of these composers have done music for the movies. We were talking about like a grand composition, if you were to choreograph a new piece. And I was saying that, you know, to me, these are grand compositions. And the fact that you're realizing an entire composition within 43 inches of a chord. And how do you know, when you were talking about the pixelation, but to work within, what is this, like a quarter of an inch diameter?
Yes, it's teeny.
Yeah, it's teeny. But you're able to really express, as you said, the beauty of the water and the beach and the sand. And as we move on to other even collections, I don't even want to leave Sand to Sea because it's so beautiful. Let's stay with this for a moment. Can you talk about what you did with this piece here?
Yes, this piece, as is with this bracelet, I found stones that I could actually parallel the cord. So the lightest part has these moonstones.
I'm just going to carry it closer to the camera so that everyone can see. Okay.
And then as you move along the piece, the stones turn to aquamarine.
Here, why don't you pull it and then everyone can see.
Which is a very pale blue.
Okay.
Then as you move along further, you get Swiss blue topaz, which is this wonderful sort of essence of turquoise blue. It's really something. And then as you move further, they turn to London blue topaz, which is a darker blue. And then I add some kyanite, which is the darkest, deepest royal blue. So I'm able to create a parallel expression or color progression with both the cord and the stones that are on it.
Just gorgeous. This one I like because it's a little shorter.
Yes.
So for some, it's really great that it's a shorter expression.
Just wear it once.
And then you can wrap it around your wrist 3 times. But then you also have made a bracelet that just is a bracelet, and with it has the
same thing.
Same idea.
This has. I added a couple green stones in there just to give it a little more richness in color, And it has a little bit more brown, sandy color in it than this one does, but
I mean,
it's the same idea.
I'm looking at that sandy color. I'm thinking of my toes in the sand as the water is sweeping up, and I'm thinking about the glistening of the sunlight. It's so spectacular. You've accomplished so much in such a small amount of space.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Then this is so spectacular.
This guy, I had to do this.
Tell us about the pattern and the stones.
This one was the last in the series. I just had to do one like this. The stones in this one, this pattern I would call mogul, because mogul jewelry has this way of drawing the pattern towards the stone. In these, beautiful Northern Indian extravagant jewelry. So the pattern is mogul. It's white turquoise with a hit of gold.
I'm going to bring it a little closer to the camera even. Yeah, okay.
And then there are these stones. I've used, the faceted stones are all sapphires, and they range from pale blue to actually a kind of yellowy brown. Because I didn't want to just do all blue here. I like a little bit of contrast. There's even some purple. But then the cabochons that are also set in these 18-karat gold bezels.
Yes.
They range from aquamarine to Swiss blue to tanzanite. And those guys are tanzanite.
Just beautiful.
Those are aquamarine.
Yeah. Just gorgeous. And then this one has the most electric.
Yeah, that's Swiss blue. These are beautifully cut stones, so they just take the light so beautifully. But this is Swiss blue topaz. It's amazing. This is its natural color.
So you've added the gemstones on half of the length of this bracelet, so when it's on the wrist, it looks like it's one length.
Right.
But it gives you some added dimension by having the.
The stones are so big on this one that I really wanted a double rope. It didn't work so well with just a single rope.
Yeah.
So the stones don't have to go around the whole thing.
Yes.
They go around half of it, and then there's another addition of rope to balance it out visually.
Yes. And this one found a home this week, which is just remarkable. Claire's remarkable, and it all just comes through. So this series here, we have these 4, was the one you did prior to that, which is called For Your Pleasure. And tell us a little bit about these 4 pieces.
So I don't know if there were 6 or 8 originally. These are what you have now. And the idea, in each case, there are 2 necklaces that sort of go together, although you could certainly just get one. And one of the patterns I call Leda, inspired by my mother's work. She was a weaver. And these are the kinds of patterns that I think of when I think of her work. These beautiful banding of colors that often contrast one another.
It's like a warp and a weft.
It is warp and weft. That's how she wove, yes. And then the other one that always goes with it. And the thing also, though, I'm sorry, about these is they also progress from light through to dark.
Just spectacular.
So if you wear them as a bracelet, you get to experience all of that together. And then these guys don't progress. This is what I call chevron. In every case, there's a chevron. And it uses the same colors, but in a very different pattern. So they go nicely together, but, you can see they sort of go together.
Just spectacular. And I love how your eye blends some of these values, some of these colors together to create a different color.
Yes,
there's the placement.
Well, that's the beauty of these tiny units, is that at a distance they blend and you get mixes, like red and blue would give you a purple sort of feel about the piece. And that's half the fun.
Just wonderful. So prior to this wonderful For Your Pleasure series, you explored, if I remember, the Moon series.
Yes.
Which was really, I think, a direct response to your father.
Yes, it was.
Tell us about
in honor of him.
Yeah.
He loved celestial events, and especially the moon, and he painted these things. He painted beautiful pieces inspired by the sun and the moon.
And the kite piece that we looked at.
The moon kite.
He's got the moon.
There's a moon there.
Yes.
And he did a painting called Luna Park, which he did as when he was a child. He grew up in New York, in Queens, and he would go to Coney Island, which at the time was called Luna Park.
Okay, so there's a piece, we have a piece, Luna Park, on the table.
Which, in Luna Park, there's these moments, it's as though you're offshore looking back at the shoreline and seeing the rides and the carny atmosphere from a distance with the color. But it's at night, so the sky is dark. There's a horizon of maybe it's a deep blue that goes to a night sky, and then there's the moon, which is expressed with the 2 diamond pave rings, which move around the piece. You can move them around the piece.
And you had those made for this?
For this piece.
Yes.
And so that's Luna Park. But the series was called Moon River. I love the song and the idea, and there was a piece in the series that's not here now that really actually was what happens when you look at the moon reflecting on the surface of water. And these pieces this one is called Blue Moon. It's what a full moon might look like early in the morning in winter. I live in a place where the moon has become much more of a presence out here in the country. I watch it rise and it set and it change. And so it's very beautiful and very inspiring to me, especially in winter.
I love this gradation. These values are shifting, and at the end we're going to go back to your table and talk about how you're able to think that through when you're designing the sequence of these beads one by one. But in the meantime, let's keep looking at these fabulous works that we have here.
Well, this one uses cut steel,
and that's a new addition. And look how sparkly! Those are just gorgeous.
Aren't these beautiful?
Just gorgeous.
And this transitions from solid white.
Okay, let me get that. Okay.
And it slowly moves through gray, silver to the steel. So there's never a contrast. There's always this little transition, which makes all the difference. And then that happens more and more and more and more and more until the white is what's left behind.
Oh,
and
Claire,
then,
you're brilliant.
And then, well, it's fun. These beads I'm very fond of.
Thank you, Claire. Claire said, "Oh my."
Oh, thank you, Claire. These beads come from Susan Bell, good friend, and these were her grandmother's, I believe, these steel beads, and they just happen to fit perfectly with the Japanese seed beads that I use.
Okay. Oh. And then we have 2 bracelets remaining from that series.
Yes, this is the pale, quiet one. It's got moonstone and very pale topaz, and it's white on white. And then this guy is more contrasty. It also is moonstone and topaz, but I picked out the darker topaz for this from the collection.
I agree with you, Karen. Claire is brilliant.
Oh my,
Yes.
well,
So Claire,
thank you.
before we move on to some of the other things on the table, can we come onto this side? I want people to see. I mean, Claire has designed this beautiful studio, and she designed this. Here, Claire, if you come on the other side,
yes.
she designed this amazing table that we're talking on with these drawers. And so let's explore. It's like a painter and their palette with paints. Claire, her palette is working with beads. So as we begin to open these drawers. What should we look through first? Okay, so Claire collects these boxes, these fabulous lucite boxes to store her beads. They're separated by color, in transition.
There's this top drawer is all muted color. This next drawer has more saturated color. Both drawers are a particular size bead. The company makes different size beads. These are a specific size that I use a lot, and it's one particular company. If I go to, there's a different company that also is Japanese called Toho.
Look at those colors.
These are Toho. And they're all beautiful, and I use them all, but the sizes are slightly different, and because the beads really have to be calibrated to make a nice even cord, I keep them separated.
So this is part of what I call the mindfulness of thinking, so with such intent about size and the correlation between these minute differences in the scale of these beads. But you're able to pull this off, and you've had great success in combining these different types of beads.
They have different assets. This company does extraordinary quality beads with really interesting colors.
Reggie says the drawers are works of art unto themselves.
Reggie.
Yeah, just beautiful. Thank you, Reggie. Thank you, Allie.
Thank you, Allie.
So this is where it starts. So when you're thinking about doing the sand to sea, you're thinking about blues. So you come to your drawers and you're thinking about this fabulous palette.
So,
of blues.
It's interesting. It's not like painting where I can make my own color and get spot on what I want. I'm stuck with manufactured existing color. I have to make that work. It's a challenge, but it's part of the fun. My father always talks about how these kinds of challenges are exciting and create inventive creativity that you might not otherwise have if you had everything at your fingertips.
Yes.
So, and it often leads to things that are more interesting than they would have been if I just could do anything.
So that makes me think, while I'm looking at you and our viewers are as well, I'm thinking about these necklaces that are on your neck, because I know that those 2 pieces, one in particular is really a personal piece. So as you talk about your father and you talk about challenges, tell us about that one in particular.
This piece, I grew up near the coast in Northern California, Palo Alto, San Francisco area, and there was a beach south near a little town called Pescadero. It's still there, made of pebbles. And I know you're not supposed to take them, but I do, and then
You give a donation.
I give a donation. But the colors are incredible. Now, this piece may not show all the variety of color, but these pebbles are so perfect and they're so amazing. They're like little pets.
Looks like we've got jade.
We've got jasper, jade, agate. I've added a little bit of opal here. I have these stones drilled and then I use them in the bead crochet. And in this case, it goes from jet black stone, which I think it might, I don't know what the stone is. It might be agate.
Or basalt? Maybe it's basalt. I don't know.
And then through jadeite, see how it's getting sort of green
yes.
as you move along? Then there's a hint of brown in there, and then it gets a little bit lighter. It never gets that light in this particular piece.
You've made many of these over the years, each one unique, and this one is just as fabulous.
It's quiet color, you know,
yeah.
and so this is very near and dear to me, these pebbles, and using them in the work. And I'll often mix these with precious stones like diamond or gold, precious metal. The contrast, I think, is very special and can be very beautiful.
Yeah.
This piece is these wonderful dark green and red. I've added a little bit of lapis to it for richness, but it's called bloodstone, these round beads. And then I've put a little silver bead in between each. And the pattern is a Leda pattern. And the little silver, there's actually beads in the rope that extend that kind of, you know, like it's a flare. And it's got a nice weight. And I like these quiet earth tone. See, there's a little lapis right there.
Yes.
Just to give it a hit, just to give it a little surprise.
Just magnificent. Magnificent. So, Claire, should we go to your working table and talk about process? Okay, let's come to this space over here. So it looks like you're working on something extremely colorful. You've got all your beads in front of you.
And I keep these out because I'm working on the piece. But so I'm doing a series of 6 necklaces. Haven't named it yet, but. One of them, one pair, and they're pairs again, sort of like the pleasure series. In one case, it's a progression from light to dark in a general color. Like this one is yellow, orange, and red. I'm going to do one that's all blues and another one that's all greens. And then I add in there a second necklace. In this case, it's a chevron, but there's this blue bead that's introduced into this piece. And they will, go together.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I love the way you think about pattern and color and relationships between the two.
It's a lot of fun.
So what I'm seeing sort of spilling off of that chevron is a single row, just a single strand of beads.
This is the code. This is the
DNA of every piece.
So what you see here, this kind of what looks like a mess of color, isn't. It's very calculated. In fact, if one bead is out of place, I'll have to eliminate it or do something to fix it because it really will stand out in the end. The cord, all this stuff, when crocheted in a spiral, like I have here to make the cord, ends up in the pattern.
Oh, it's absolutely spectacular. And so you obviously understand the sequence necessary for that single line of beads. And you've always compared it to ikat weaving, like that the Indonesians do when they create color and pattern in a single thread. And then when they weave this ikat, the entire pattern is realized.
It's amazing.
This is so, having just been to Bali, I totally understand what you're talking about, witnessing that weaving. So the concept, but the hours that you invest in dreaming up these patterns and then creating the sequence and then crocheting it. What's the trickiest part?
It depends on the pattern. I find patterns that I have to write down or diagram are hard because they require memorization, whereas a pattern like this is intuitive. I string the beads, I sort of sense the length, how far I'm going by the length of the strand, and so I'll change the color. It's a little bit more improvised.
Just beautiful.
So,
Claire, who's your favorite artist or your favorite sculptor?
well, I have a few sculptors. I would say Alexander Calder, way up there. I love the Italian sculptor Marino Marini. He does a lot of horses.
Okay.
Cast bronze, beautiful.
Yeah.
And then there's Giacometti, of course, with his slender figures. I love him too.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So should we can sort of round out this wonderful interview, Claire, if you want, and we can explore a few more pieces on the table. We can use the rest of the time in any way you like. I see a piece here that's a little bit more snake-like.
Yes. You know, naturally
beautiful.
these things, a lot of people think they look like snakes, and you know, you can push that with pattern and emphasize that idea, which I do sometimes. It's never an attempt at being really an illustration of a snake. It's just implied.
It's just implied.
That one you're looking at there, this guy is a favorite pair of mine. I call it wild iris because out here in the pasture there are wild iris in the spring, and they're a mix of white and purple and brown and yellow. And some of them have 3 sort of prongs coming off of them. So this one is a little more literal. It has 3 yellow prongs.
I see. Okay.
But then I put it together with this other one that sort of bleeds into yellow and then does this bright blue to brown progression. This one does too. Bright blue through to brown.
Just gorgeous. And the pair of them.
And it's a pair.
So now that you've spoken about your pasture, why don't we step outside and end our interview so that people, everyone, the viewers can see. I'm going to create a little contrast. There we go. So Claire has the extraordinary pleasure every day of being in this space and seeing the beautiful, experiencing this. Here, there we go. This rich, you feel like you're I've never been to Africa, but this is the sense I have when you're on safari, perhaps, this magical, peaceable kingdom. And your pasture goes several, I don't know how far it goes, Claire.
I share the pasture with other households, but it's about 14 acres.
14 acres of just nature, beauty. There's a couple of horses. We don't see them at the moment. And huge, I believe those are cottonwood.
Those are. They think that they're a mix of cottonwood and aspen, but nobody knows for sure what those giant trees are.
Well, and in the fall, every season,
yellow.
Every season, this landscape comes alive, and you can see the beauty of her. She has a pond and a beautiful bridge that she created. There's all the lily pads at this time of the year. It's so green. Reggie says all we need is an African elephant in the watering hole. That's right. But it's so breathtakingly beautiful, and you can see, as you said, the way the moon moves across the sky. All the events of the sky occur right here in her own backyard. And it's been such a pleasure to invite all of you into Claire's peaceable kingdom. And I want to thank you, Claire.
Thank you for your time.
And thank you for inviting us and sharing the beauty of your everyday with us and all your viewers. And it's the biggest honor for us to have you and your work at Patina Gallery. And we can't wait to welcome you all to the gallery when everyone is traveling and feeling safe. But in the meantime, I hope that everyone here has enjoyed this peaceable kingdom with with Allison and Claire, and it's really been fun, and I hope it's been a great distraction if you're home and you're in isolation, just to have a little part of Patina and a little part of Claire for your Friday morning. Thank you all for tuning in. I know this one went a little longer than usual, but I think it was a real pleasure for me, and I think it was a pleasure for all of you. Everyone take care, stay safe, stay happy, thank you. And stay tuned. We're going to take a break from the mindful meditations. We'll come back maybe in a few weeks, a couple of months. We'll see what the next season will have in store for us. Take care. Bye.